Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope you've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Today, I'll be discussing a requested case of the unsolved disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. Researching this case pretty much felt like a frustrating game of cat and mouse. Now, I encourage you all to do your own research with this case and not to just look at my video for all of the information. Here we go. Amy Lynn Bradley was born on May 12th of 1974 in Petersburg, Virginia, to parents Ron and Iva Bradley. She also had a younger brother named Brad. Now, Amy was someone who was really close to her family. She was known to be intelligent, and after graduating high school, she earned plenty of college scholarships, but decided to go ahead and attend school which was close to home. And she was also athletic. She would play basketball. Amy loved dogs and was eventually able to have one of her own. She was also skilled at swimming and would go on to be a lifeguard and even a swim team coach. On March 21st of 1998, Amy and her family were going on this family trip, flying to Puerto Rico on the Rhapsody of the Seas cruise, which was heading towards Curacao. What was really strange about it was that before going on the cruise, Amy didn't really have a really good feeling about this trip. So while the family makes it onto the ship, they are eating dinner together, and they also noticed that crew members of the ship were paying close attention to Amy, and they were extremely attentive to their needs. Now, at the time, her family didn't really think much of it since Amy was a beautiful woman. What Amy's parents did find as odd was that one of the waiters came up to them asking where Amy was because he wanted to take her to some place called Carlos and Charlie's. Now, I never really heard about this, so I think I pretty much gathered that this was some sort of restaurant or some sort of bar and grill. So seeing that Amy wasn't around, the waiter walked off. Now, when Amy and Brad were able to get back to their parents, the parents were able to tell Amy and Brad about this unusual encounter, which actually pretty much kind of creeped Amy out, which is understandable because you have this there's basically the stranger asking where you are. Later on, the family went to a nightclub. Now, as for me, I really am not a fan of nightclubs at all, and I'm even surprised that Amy and Brad attended a nightclub with their parents. Now, again, like, I'm really not trying to go ahead and judge. Like, I'm not really, really surprised that Amy and Brad went to a nightclub with their parents because, again, this was like a pretty close family. And of course, family went on this trip to have, fun. So, family who, clubs together, stays together. That honestly sounded worse than I thought. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stay on track. Now, Amy's parents noticed the waiter from before who was asking for Amy, and they also noticed him give a head nod to a band member at the club. From what I gathered, there's not really a full legal name that I could find of this band member, but all I could find was that he was most likely known as Yellow. And Yellow would eventually be dancing with Amy, but before Yellow did dance with Amy, her parents told her that they were pretty much getting tired, they were getting ready to go to sleep. So they were about to go to their rooms, telling Amy that they loved her and that they will see her in the morning. What Amy's mother didn't realize was that when she and her husband walked out of the club, that it would be the last time they would ever see their daughter again. Afterward, Amy and Brad would eventually leave the club and hang out in the balcony, which was pretty much near the suite that she and the family were staying at. Brad was getting tired, and when he left Amy alone to go to sleep, he told her that he loved her, not knowing that he would never see his sister again. Now, just to make things clear, this is around 3 a.m. on March 23rd of 1998. Now, since Amy was, near the balcony where the suite was, Amy's father, Ron, was pretty much, he was still in bed, and when he got up, he did see Amy sleeping on like the chair outside. So when he went back to sleep, Amy was really never seen again. About 20 minutes later, Ron gets up, then sees that Amy is gone. Ron tells his wife Iva about this, then starts looking all over the ship. Again, like they are in, foreign land, and he was concerned. He wanted to make sure that the whole family was together because, of course, on a cruise in a foreign country, you don't want to get lost. So Ron was getting concerned, and he was growing more concerned by the fact that he could not find his daughter Amy anywhere after searching for hours. Hours has gone by. Amy is nowhere in sight. Ron is pretty much freaking out, telling Iva that Amy is nowhere to be found. The family gets in touch with the captain, and they are certain that Amy would not just walk off and, let the family worry and not tell them where she's heading, which means that they were certain that someone on that ship took Amy. Since they were certain that someone on the ship took Amy, they were adamant, like they did not want anyone leaving that ship. To make a long story short, sadly the captain wasn't hearing it and allowed 3,000 people to tour Curacao, which I find to be pretty crappy. Like, I get that Amy is a grown woman and you feel like the family might be overreacting. Please forgive me if I'm about to like sound ignorant, about what I'm about to say, because again, like I was born in 97, so like how things were going on for the majority of the 90s, like I don't know, I wasn't there for that, okay? Because like this is 98, so I don't really believe that cell phones were really part of everyone's everyday life. In other words, it wasn't like they definitely couldn't text her, and it wasn't like they could call Amy to try to see where she is. But you would think that the captain would want to just be on the safe side, because I doubt that it definitely wouldn't have hurt asking passengers if they have seen Amy. Now, the crew does some sort of search. I'm gonna go ahead and into detail later on about this. So they do some sort of search, and I just like when I first heard about this information, I'm like to myself, like, why couldn't you just do the search before you allowed thousands of people to walk off of the boat? Not only is the crew doing their own search, but the family is doing some searching as well. Brad, Amy's younger brother, stumbles across something which is extremely weird. Now let me go ahead and backtrack a bit. Now when the captain first hears about Amy, all he does is make an announcement pretty much asking her to get back with her family. So back to what Brad stumbled across. Now he stumbles across Yellow, the band member at the nightclub, telling Brad how sorry he is to hear about Amy. In Brad's mind, he's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Because Mr. Yellow, because I don't know what Yellow's real name, like I doubt that his mother gave birth to him and named him Yellow, but Yellow, the band member, like how on earth do you know that a 23-year-old white woman is nowhere to be found when the only announcement about her was to get back to where she was supposed to be? I don't know about you, but to me, that's not the sort of announcement that makes you offer condolences. It does make you ask if she got back with her family, but not to offer your condolences. So the captain and the crew meet up with the family, telling them that Amy is definitely not on the ship. Now that the family hears this, they absolutely beg them to put out a picture and encourage the passengers to keep an eye out. This is when I begin to call the captain Captain Crunch. Because just when I thought that this case wouldn't irritate me more, Captain Crunch here pretty much tells the family, I can't send out pictures and ask people to keep an eye out because it would disturb the guests. So let me go ahead and get this straight, Captain Crunch. So you are worried about disturbing the guests, but you are not here trying to empathize with what Amy's family is going through. Because like just imagine like how Amy's family is feeling. Their daughter and sister is missing in a foreign country. I could be wrong about this. Like, I really hope that I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure that most of the passengers, I would hope that they're at least decent human beings and that they would have no issue keeping an eye out as a way of being decent people or good citizens. Captain Crunch goes on to suggest that it's possible that Amy went overboard. The family was not buying that one bit because the way that the railing was set up, it was like pretty high. Like it was like pretty much like up to here. So she would have been pretty desperate to jump if that was the case, because she definitely did not jump over that railing by accident. Plus, the family was absolutely adamant that she was not depressed and that she had no plans of taking her own life. She had plans on moving her life forward. Like I mentioned earlier on in this video, like Amy, even like recently, like she had plans with like career opportunities, but she recently got herself a dog, which she always wanted. Her family even mentions how when they even came to the cruise, Amy refused to even touch the rail. Captain Crunch here continues to tell the family how they only have two options: either stay on the cruise or don't stay on the cruise, because either way, the ship would leave Curacao in a couple of hours. So the family makes the tough decision to get off of the cruise, and the ship was able to push out photos of Amy. While walking around Curacao, Amy's family asked people if they had seen her. And I cannot fathom the sort of pain and the sort of terror that her family was going through at that moment. This was supposed to be a fun family vacation, but all of a sudden it was forced to go on this huge search party because one of their own had gone missing. The ship left, so the family was pretty much stranded on Curacao for 2 days. While stranded on a foreign land, Amy's mother, Iva, gets a call from her brother. Now, her brother, I believe that he was able to get in contact with the FBI. So from the FBI, he finds out that the crew did not even search the whole ship because they were absolutely certain that Amy was not on the ship. But how in the world are you absolutely certain that she's not on the ship if you did not even search the entire ship? I can imagine that the family they were absolutely livid to hear this sort of information, because I know for certain that I would be absolutely livid if my daughter or my sister is missing and you guys didn't even search the entire, cruise. But of course, with all the information I gathered from Captain Crunch and his crew, this is sadly no surprise to me because they have been acting like trash since Amy was mentioned to them in the first place. The FBI eventually gets involved and the family demands to get back on that ship. Once they are back on the ship, they grind Captain Crunch up and they grind up his crew. Rightfully so. Now, while on the boat, the family comes across a couple of female college students who they met at the nightclub like really early in the morning before Amy went missing. The family tells the college students what is going on and they ask them if they had seen Amy anywhere. Now, the college students, they tell the family that they saw her with the band member Yellow on an elevator. Hearing about Yellow's interaction with Brad when Amy went missing and this supposed sighting, the FBI questions Yellow. I hope that you all have been paying attention so far, because while the FBI interrogates Yellow, they claim that he had absolutely no idea that Amy even went missing in the first place. Because like I said, Brad saw him, while during their first search with Amy, telling him about how sorry he is to hear about Amy. So he's telling the FBI that he didn't know that Amy had disappeared, but then earlier on he tells Brad how sorry he is that Amy disappeared, pretty much telling the FBI that Brad was lying. Now the FBI proceeds to give a polygraph test and the band member passes it, but I'm also sure that Brad would have passed it too because Brad knows what the band member told him. Not only that, the FBI is able to get in touch with the crew's photographer, discovering that the pictures he took of Amy before she disappeared had also disappeared. Like, yeah, you know, a girl goes missing and her photos go missing too. Like, that's absolutely not weird at all. Now, just to be clear, I'm just gonna go ahead and backtrack to when the family were on Curacao, like those couple of days. So they were able to get in contact with this cab driver, claiming that he had seen Amy, and like, you know, this cab driver described her physical appearance like perfectly, telling them to look at specific areas, but nothing was found when they were, you know, searching these specific areas. And Brad was also certain that he heard Amy's voice while they were driving around, but he was unsure if they were following the wrong vehicle or if he just heard what he wanted to hear. Now let's get back onto focus because, you know, the photos of Amy are missing, but there is, by God's grace, there was a videographer who did have videos of Amy dancing with the band member. Now, here is the thing about this specific lead. Amy's family is already off of the cruise when this lead is pretty much known to them. And Amy has already gone missing for a year. Yes, you heard me right. Amy had gone missing for a year before they even saw this video. And this blew the videographer, you know, away too, because, you know, he was shocked to hear that the family just received this information a year after Amy had gone missing. Throughout that entire year, like, that Amy had vanished, the family worked hard, day and night, to get her name out there. Later on, a Canadian businessman contacts them who was vacationing at Curacao several months after Amy had vanished. The Canadian businessman explains that while at Curacao, he was on a beach and saw this woman. And of course, he's explaining, you know, this woman to the family, and the description that he has of this woman resembles Amy, like tattoos and everything. Because the thing about Amy's appearance, like, she had a tattoo, like a Chinese word, I believe it was, like on her ankle, and she had like the Looney Tunes character, the Tasmanian Devil, playing basketball on her back. He not only notices like these physical attributes, but he also notices a couple of men with her. The thing about this woman, the Canadian businessman states how she was walking up towards him, like almost like she was about to say something to him. But before she could say anything, the men that were with her like pretty much pulled her away from the Canadian businessman. Seeing this as odd, the Canadian businessman followed the woman and the group of men. Props to the businessman. But eventually he began, you know, thinking that it was most likely nothing and walked off. But when he got home, like months after the vacation, he stumbled across a picture of the woman that he recognized at Curacao, but the picture that he was looking at was described as Amy Bradley. Eventually, this person who describes himself as a private investigator got in touch with the family, theorizing that Amy was a victim of human trafficking. The thing about this person who was saying that they were a private investigator, he was asking for a whole lot of cash, and the family was able to raise money to pay him. While heading to Curacao, the person sends pictures of a woman whose face wasn't shown at all, and you know, all you could really see was like a hat and some sort of ankle tattoo. But this would not be the only, you know, so-called private investigator that would be on the case. Now, Amy's father, Ron, his boss was kind enough to hire a PI of his own. He pretty much felt like he owed the family that because he did also pay for their trip in the first place. So the company private investigator discovers that the initial PI was not a PI and that they paid a con man who was looking for a quick buck and only used the money to enjoy a vacation. In other words, this piece of crap literally took advantage of this family's pain and robbed them blind. 4 years after Amy had disappeared, in 2002, the FBI gets in contact with them, telling them how a U.S. Navy man in 1999 attended a brothel. Now, if you don't know what a brothel is, to make a long story short, this is a place to pretty much hook up with hookers. Now, he is in this brothel in Curacao and is approached by a woman who told him that she was Amy Lynn Bradley and that she needed help. She explained that she was trapped in the brothel and that she needed help escaping. You would think that somebody who is supposed to risk their lives to ensure our protection, ensure that we as Americans keep our freedom, would just see this woman who definitely has an American accent and think to himself, you know what, I am part of the military, I should go ahead and help this woman out. But the sort of Navy man that we are talking about is a pathetic excuse for a Navy man. He decides not to help this woman who clearly told him that she was a sex slave. He decided to put this on the back of his mind for 4 years. All because he was discharged for attending a place he had no business being in the first place. By the time he confessed, which was 4 years later, it was already too late. It was too late because the brothel burned to the ground. A few years later, the family gets an anonymous email from the Caribbean showing them a picture of this woman from an adult website who was known as Jazz. And seeing this picture, the family was convinced that Jazz was in fact Amy. The family gets in touch with the forensic detective and the description of Jazz matched Amy's. Unfortunately, they were not able to obtain an IP address. They also hear from a woman later that year who vacationed in the Barbados, who was in the bathroom stall, and she notices a woman at the sink. But the strange thing was that she felt like she had no choice but to hide because men were walking into the female bathroom telling this woman to show up at this specific location at this specific time and not to mess up. Once the men leave, this woman approaches the young lady, like asking if she's okay and asking what her name is. And the woman hears that this lady at the sink, she whispers to the tourist lady that her name is Amy. Not knowing exactly who Amy Lynn Bradley was, but knowing that this situation was strange, she pretty much like ran out of the bathroom and tried to go ahead and get security or get her husband. But if I'm really telling this account right, this lady who called herself Amy was already gone. Once learning about Amy Lynn Bradley's situation months later, this lady called the family immediately, who would end up calling the FBI themselves. But sadly, after this account, which was this is like 2005, so 18 years later, at least to my knowledge, there have not really been any solid leads after that. Now, if you are watching this video and you have any information at all, please be a snitch and call 911. If there is something that we can learn from Amy's case, it's that we really need to look out for one another. And I'm preaching to myself here. Like, if we see something that doesn't feel right, if we just see something that's unusual, we should immediately call for help. Like, even if it turns out to be nothing, but it's always good to be 100% sure, because from the sound of it, Amy tried to escape plenty of times, but sadly her escape plans would end up failing. If Amy is alive today, she would be 50 years old, and I really do hope that she is alive, because it really does seem that she tried desperately to get back home on a few occasions. Amy went missing when she was 23, and she will be turning 50 later this year. So, and which means that she had been missing. She had gone missing for 25 years. Her family misses her each and every day and are desperate to know what happened to her all those years ago. My prayer is that the family would get the answers that they have been looking for. I do pray that God would comfort her family and that they would seek him. The God that I serve, the God of the Bible, is an all-seeing God. He knows exactly where Amy is, and he knows exactly what happened to her. I thank you all for taking the time here today to watch this video. If you did like this video, please feel free to hit the like button. If you have any thoughts on this case at all, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about the next video. If there is a certain true crime case that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and let me know. I will see y'all for next True Crime Tuesdays, and I will talk to y'all later.